Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're watching Green Wave TV Alternative Media Television. It is March 6, 2013. I'm going to wait a few minutes here, drive a little traffic to the live stream. I've got some very important announcements and news stories to go over in just a minute. Please let me know if you can hear me and that our audio quality and our video quality is A-OK, and then we'll get started. All right, I'm going to get started now. We will, of course, have this in rebroadcast format on YouTube and our websites. As soon as this broadcast is finished, I'm going to be working on a lot of this content, and I'll put it into more packaged format, so please share it out to the viewing public, get it out to your friends and family. But there's times when we get hit so hard by this tyranny that I can barely keep up with it. And literally, I'm spewing it out of my mouth as fast as I can at any given particular moment to warn the American people. Now, I've been told over the past 3-4 years that, what we're talking about is insane, that, the president would never use drone strikes to kill and murder innocent Americans. President Barack Obama would never let the wars in the Middle East to continue. He would never assassinate and bypass Congress to go after people and kill people like Muammar Gaddafi. He would never run guns out of newly toppled Libya into Syria and then put a hit on Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's life. He would never do that. He would never send us to concentration camps and kill and murder political dissidents. People have been telling me this for 3 or 4 years. And like a drum, President Barack Obama has done every single one of those things. Whether or not he's murdering innocent, presumed innocent until proven guilty, people like quote-unquote terrorists like Anwar al-Awlaki, U.S. citizens that dined at the Pentagon months before he was murdered by President Barack Obama, without a fair trial, without habeas corpus, totally shredding and shitting on the U.S. Constitution. We saw this most recently with Christopher Dorner, which I did a series of videos on. In fact, one of them even got picked up by CNN and was broadcasted on air. A lot of you sent me that footage, which clearly showed us and showed me and showed you and showed the American people that there is no due process of law anymore. They will literally incinerate you in Big Bear, which is what they did with Christopher Dorner. They will murder you. They will shoot at civilians, just regular John and Jane, Joe Blow American on the street, as they attempted to gun down 70-year-old, 80-year-old lady and her daughter in a pickup truck that didn't even match the description of Christopher Dorner's. They will ram their vehicle into other trucks matching that description, as was the case of another Los Angeles man who was Caucasian, so obviously they weren't fact-checking any of this before attempting to kill these people. And we keep seeing how step by step President Barack Obama inches his way to absolute and total tyranny. And the breaking news today, which I can barely get out, and I barely have time to report on and get the videos out and post-produce, and we spoke of this yesterday. I just put out a video rebroadcast of our radio show titled Obama Starts World War III. I encourage you to listen to that. It's about 40 minutes long. Please share it with everybody, where we announced some breaking news live on air. First being Hugo Chavez was declared dead. That came out a day late, so we had that news. We also had news out from Eric Holder saying that the White House and the president can now kill and murder on American soil with armed drones, just regular Joe Blow American, without a right to a fair trial, without habeas corpus, so you can stand in front of a jury of your peers, be represented by attorney. Not anymore. They will just kill you. We also talked about one of our good friends, Stormcloud's Gathering. Aaron put out a video on the internment camps that are in motion now, FEMA camps, however you want to slice or dice it, that have been in process in a newly leaked document that came out 2010. Listen to our video, watch his video. I encourage you. He put a really good piece together in breaking that all down. This is history repeating itself. It's why I put out the hour-long documentary, The Executive, on the gun ban, to clearly show that and show it to all people, not just my base, not just my fans, not just what people would call my constituents, but those people that aren't awake, that don't know what's going on. And so we have breaking news today. Rand Paul is speaking via a filibuster, funny word, filibuster, and he invokes Hitler in opposing Obama's nomination. And you should really listen to what he has to say. This was from the Weekly Standard. It's being rebroadcasted all over the internet. Rand Paul, who is currently on the Senate floor filibustering President Obama's pick to the next CIA director, invoked Hitler. Now, I watched the video. He says, I'm not saying that President Barack Obama is Hitler. You know, when a politician says they're not saying something, they actually are. So literally, Dr. Paul, Rand Paul, Ron Paul's son, is invoking Hitler and using the term Hitler to describe President Barack Obama, and his use and his attempted use to use drones, which could be the large drones, which actually crashed a plane over JFK Airport. A pilot ran into one yesterday. I reported on that during our live radio show. Or could be a small drone the size of a fly or a gnat or a bumblebee, which literally could be flying around this room right now, that could enter a house, a place of business, your office, or follow you around in the public and you wouldn't even know it. They could literally see what I'm reading here on my desk. And they are planning and saying that they have not ruled out using these drones to kill you, your family, maybe your mother, your father, your daughter, your brother, your wife, your husband, your aunt, your uncle, your cousin. Could just blow you up as you're sitting in your church in Sunday Mass because you're viewed as a political dissident of President Barack Obama. Again, this all ties back into war. This all ties back into World War III. It is here. Just like it took 10 years before the American public in the history books to recognize Vietnam as a real war, it's going to take about that long for the American people in the history books and the American populace to recognize World War III as a real war. Hitler, Obama, see, I'm not going to be a politician here and tell you I'm not likening President Barack Obama to Hitler. Of course I am. I likened him to Hitler in our video, The Executive. Obama and Hitler are one and the same. Remember, Hitler was democratically elected by the people at a time of chaos for the German people and chaos around the world and financial collapse post the 1929 stock market crash. President Barack Obama elected during the post-2008 stock market crash amidst a lot of chaos, amidst a national debt through the roof we can never pay back, in an insolvency, in a bankruptcy situation that is far worse than Greece, where literally we have countries like China acting as our loan sharks so that we can not even afford to pay the interest payments that we already owe on the national debt. That's how bad things are here in the United States. So President Barack Obama is now officially setting the stage for war, not just overseas, not just with his targets in Libya, people like Muammar Gaddafi that he's already murdered and killed, one of the top 10 most wealthy people on the planet, by the way. And of course, Hugo Chavez has now just conveniently died, which probably was due to natural causes, cancer, etc. But another very wealthy individual. In fact, there are claims and some estimates that he died with something like a $2 billion fortune from some of the reports that I've read. And of course, we have very large oil interests in that region and in that part of the world. So we have war is not on the horizon. It's not something we're forward thinking about. I talked about this 3-4 years ago. It was a little bit forward thinking then, but not now. War is in full effect. So President Barack Obama and his counterparties in the state and the status that he represents are prepared. And so they're doing a number of things. They're preparing for these wars overseas, which is why President Barack Obama has been running guns under a newly toppled Libya that they helped and fueled the violent revolution to liberate the people. No, to push American self-interest. And they've been running guns out of Libya into Syria, arming the Syrian opposition with weapons of war, all kinds of weaponry, to topple Bashar al-Assad, who's now living on a warcraft or an aircraft carrier somewhere in hiding, with the target always being and always has been on Iran. Benjamin Netanyahu, I reported on this months ago in a Time magazine article, basically telegraphing to the people of the world, the American people, and Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and his government that we are going to attack you. And using and propagandizing the idea of nukes, just like President George W. Bush propagandized the terminology of WMDs, Obama and Netanyahu are propagandizing nukes, nuclear technology, nuclear threats. And they've been killing people directly there. Scientists, Iranian civilians have been murdered. This has happened in the past year, in the past few years, since I have been in the business of liberty and reporting truth and real news to the American public. So not only is President Barack Obama preparing for war overseas and engaging in it overseas, we are already engaged. Let's be clear here. We are already engaged in the war overseas in the Middle East in that destabilization effort. But they've been laying the groundwork very carefully ever since the collapse of 2008 in our financial markets, which was orchestrated as well, by the way. You know, there was a movie out called Inside Job. Well, we were way ahead of the curve there. Remember, I was a Wall Streeter on the inside and watched the raping of our nation from the inside. It was the primary motivation and driver for me to get out of my suit and actually do what I do today. Because I saw just how blatantly America and the American people were ripped off. The largest transfer of wealth in American history outside of the pockets of the baby boomers into these individuals' back pocket. The bankers, the Bilderbergs, the Jamie Dimons, the John Thanes, the Ken Lewises, whoever you want to target or whoever you want to name, these special interest groups, the corporatists, the power structure at large, the global oligarchy, however you want to label it, the Illuminati, it's the same thing. It's the same idea. And so in addition to engaging war overseas, President Barack Obama is laying the framework for war here at home. Because of course we all know, those of us paying attention, that civil war is about to erupt here domestically in the United States. We have people signing hundreds of thousands worth of signatures to peacefully secede from the United States and from the Union. States like Texas, with over 125,000 signatures and growing. Over 700,000 signatures and growing across the continental United States. So this is coming. So he's laying the groundwork for FEMA camps. They've already built the camps, by the way. Just like Hitler converted Auschwitz for these, from these other types of war camps into actual internment camps. It's the same thing President Barack Obama is doing now, here in our country. Now remember, it was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and Democrats and a lot of liberals I know love to really talk really high of FDR and say, well, Christopher, people thought FDR was a socialist, just like they say President Barack Obama is a socialist. But he created really good things like Social Security. And I'll be, yeah, good in theory, but it's bankrupt, insolvent, broke. And they'll just kind of look at me like, yeah, it is, I guess you're right. And it shuts them up. But remember, it was FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who signed an executive order to send Japanese Americans into internment camps, concentration camps here in the United States and the Western U.S. during World War II. The same thing's happening now. History is repeating itself. But the new target isn't the Japanese, nor is it even Iranians necessarily here at home in America, or is it Osama bin Laden. It is now you, the American patriot. It is now you, the regular guy. Regular John and Jane, the guy that gets up every morning, does his 9 to 5, maybe, does a little hard labor, comes home to his family, makes a meal with his wife, and feeds his kids. That's the enemy now here in the United States of America. And it's exactly why they're telegraphing they are now going to kill you. They are now going to murder you via drone strikes, via armed drones. Whether or not it is one of these really sexy, big-looking drones, armed to the teeth, that crashed the plane I just mentioned over JFK Airport yesterday, or it's one of these really small baby drones, maybe built with nanotechnology, that's probably how they did it, that might slip into my ear while I'm delivering this broadcast and make sure my heart stops. Kind of like Andrew Breitbart. Conveniently dies right before he's about to ruin President Barack Obama's career. Says, I'm going to ruin you, to paraphrase. I'm going to end you, Andrew Breitbart, a guy that could back up his statements, wasn't just a talker. Remember how he destroyed Anthony Weiner? And why did he destroy him? Because he was a liar. Because he was a scumbag. Because he was tweeting sexual pictures and cheating on his wife online. This is what has happened over the past few years. And people just brush it off. People just look past it. Well, this is about as hard-hitting and in your face that I can possibly get, and these people, these tyrants can possibly get. Get all of these stories out to your friends and family and the American public. So we have Rand Paul, who has launched a talking filibuster against the CIA nominee. He's been speaking for over 2 hours. In fact, I've been watching him live on C-SPAN for much of the last hour as we put some of our content into post-production and get it up to you as soon as possible. I've got a few new videos coming out, as well as an AMTV News report by Topher Morrison. Stay tuned for that. I've been watching Rand Paul speak at C-SPAN. You can go to the live feed at cspan.org. Hopefully it's still going on. I'm sure we can get a rebroadcast or we can repost it for you. Senator Rand Paul, and I'm reading here, this is from The Hill, is staging a talking filibuster against the nomination of John Brennan to be director of the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. I'm here to filibuster John Brennan's nomination to be director of the CIA, Paul said on the Senate floor Wednesday. I will speak for as long as it takes. I will speak today until the president says no. He will not kill you at a cafe. I'm gonna repeat that again because I want this to sink in. This is what Rand Paul says. This is a direct quote. I will speak today via this filibuster until the president says no. He will not kill you at a cafe. I'm highlighting this on this website. Do you even understand what I'm telling you? Do the American people even recognize what Rand Paul is trying to say? You could literally be sitting at a cafe with your friend, having a little tea, a little cup of coffee, and whatever else, and be murdered in plain sight by the president because he labels you a terrorist. Or like Christopher Dorner, instead of giving you a fair trial, as is our fundamental God-given right, via the Constitution of the United States, they'll just incinerate you and light the match. Just like they've been killing people like Anwar al-Awlaki, and his teenage son was a casualty, and just like they're striking other people and other accused or alleged terrorists overseas and blowing up schoolhouses because they happen to be in the vicinity of the drone strike, the same thing is on the table here in the United States.
Now, Rand Paul has said he wants more answers from the administration on whether American citizens can be targeted by armed drones inside the United States before he'll lift his filibuster on Brennan's nomination. The senator has spoke from the Senate floor for more than 2 hours so far. No American should be killed by a drone on American soil without first being found guilty of a crime. That an American could be killed on American soil is an abomination. End quote. Ron Paul. Paul noted that his throat was getting dry as he passed the 1 hour mark. My throat's getting dry. This is another quote. This is the first time I've come to the floor to use a true talking filibuster, Paul said. It almost never happens. I don't think I've ever seen someone come and speak in a filibuster before. Has America the Beautiful become Alice in Wonderland? He says. When I asked the president, can you kill an American on American soil? It should have been an easy answer, an unequivocal no. But his answer was, I haven't killed anyone yet, and I have no intention of killing Americans. But I might. End quote. Let that sink in. That's a quote from Rand Paul. He says, has America the Beautiful become Alice in Wonderland? When I asked the president, can you kill an American on American soil? It should have been an easy answer. An unequivocal no. But his answer was, I haven't killed anyone yet, and I have no intention of killing Americans, but I might. But I might. You know, I've done a number of very powerful videos over the past few days. We put out a video yesterday. It was a little bit of a rant. Obviously, you can see my passion. You can see that I am concerned. And I get countless emails from people. They say, Christopher, what should I do? Should I get out of the country? Should I leave? I'm frightened for myself. I'm frightened for my family. I have no easy answer to give you. I'm frightened. I'm terrified for this country. I'm terrified that we have these evil people in power that are destroying our individual liberty, that are shredding the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and everything good and moral and right that this country was founded on. And I hear the cynics in the back of my ear going, you know, the country isn't perfect, Christopher. You know, the founding fathers were slave owners. They were aristocrats themselves. Look how we murdered the Native Americans when, you know, we founded the supposed free world. I'm not arguing with you. Things aren't perfect. Things have never been perfect. America hasn't ever been perfect. It's been layered with a lot of bad stuff, a lot of bad people, and a lot of bad things. But what's made America great, in my opinion, the greatest country on the planet, and I know that sounds a little redneck, but I really believe that. What's made it the greatest country in the world is our ability and the right, a God-given right, I believe, for the little guy, like myself, like you, like your friend or a family member, and their ability to exercise the freedom of speech. My right, your choice, your right to worship a God or not a God, or a religion or not a religion, and to pursue and be in the pursuit of what we call happiness here in the United States of America. Not the guarantee, but the hope to pursue that and the right to pursue it, and even maybe fail in that pursuit. That's what makes America great. What also makes it great is the check and the balance. And it's the reason our founding fathers set up the government the way they set it up. There's a reason why we have a Congress, and the president has to go through Congress. There's a reason we have senators, and we have a Senate. And there's a reason why it's supposed to be the people that elect the president, and that they are supposed to represent us, not the other way around. There's a reason it's been set up this way. And to see that absolutely, concretely destroyed over the past few years. Who cares about the wealth that's been lost? Quite frankly, I know we care about that, and of course I care about it. I care that the country's being looted. But that's just small beans compared to what we're talking about here. We're talking about killing innocent Americans on American soil. We're talking about sending political dissidents into internment camps because President Barack Obama wants to eliminate the freedom of speech. That's what we're talking about. You know, was there ever a time to flee the United States and to get out? And quite frankly, if you don't want to stick around for what's about to erupt, you probably should leave. I've decided I'm not going to leave. This is my country. This is my land. And many Americans, just like many Americans falsely believe that they're doing the right thing overseas pursuing and fighting these wars, many of which are willing to die for our country and die for America, there are many American patriots here in the United States still willing to die for her as well. And to die for what is right. And to provide a check and a balance to this tyranny. You know, personally, what I want is peace. That's all I want. I just want peace. I want to be left alone. I don't want the big government in my face. I don't want to be taxed unfairly. Taxation without representation. I don't want to be murdered at a cafe because of my political beliefs, my religious beliefs, anything like that. So, you know, there's a misconception, too. There's a misconception within the liberty movement that it's just a bunch of tinfoil hat-wearing individuals, and there's a few bad apples among the group, you know, talking about violence, which is not something that I stand for or agree with at all. You know, people like me and many of you watching, we are just regular people. That's it. Regular John and Jane American. Terrified about what's happening at the White House, what's happening with the president bypassing Congress, what's happening overseas and the murder of all these innocent civilians and the soon-to-be murder of civilians and Americans on American soil. Get this message out to as many people as you can. And we'll put these links up on our website. Again, a couple big articles. The first report yesterday from Eric Holder saying, they will drone strike you on American soil. The president has not ruled it out. Hopefully he doesn't have to use it, is what they say. And now today, we have Rand Paul holding this 2-hour marathon session. The only one that I can see speaking out and for anything, even raising an alarm bell that something might be wrong here. And there's something wrong with that. Where are all the other patriots? Where are all the other freedom-loving, God-fearing Americans speaking their mind right now? You know, instead of writing your congressman, people like to say, write your congressman. I say we knock on their doors. Tonight. Today. Maybe that would get their attention. Absolute tyranny. I want to thank you guys all for joining me today. I'll get this rebroadcast up as soon as possible. Got a lot of very heavy-hitting reports in the pipeline, a few of which will be coming up later this afternoon. Thanks again for your continued support. Hard-hitting in your face. I'm Christopher Green. I will update you on anything else that comes out. Again, this story is developing, and I am absolutely blown away by it. Not surprised, but I am blown away that at 31 years old, I literally lay witness to the murdering of the U.S. Constitution and the raping of this great country. Honestly, if this doesn't wake the American people up, I don't know what will. Maybe when they start having the conversation that, hey, did you hear about Bob? Yeah, he was thrown into an internment camp. Do you know why? No, we don't. Obama didn't like him. You know, maybe Obama didn't like the color of his skin. Maybe he didn't like the religion that he practiced. Maybe he didn't like his political beliefs. Thought he was a threat. Didn't like his clothes, the way he looked, his eye color. Who knows? But this is the kind of dictatorial power that this president is exercising. You know, Mr. Hope and Change, baby. Like Richard Nixon. Mr. Hope and Change, yeah. Where's Oprah Winfrey now? You know, her tears. I'd like to see her get drone striked. Of course, I don't want to see that happen, but I wonder what she would have to say after that. Like, hey, you know, I'm still crying for this guy. This is what we're dealing with in America today. That's all I have for now. Thanks for watching.